Hi, I'm Jamie Mangrum. I'm the Vice President for Taborda Solutions, and today we're going to go through and do a preview and presentation for our product, Human Resources as a Service. I apologize, you'll have to excuse my voice. It's a little raspy. I'm getting over a cold right now. So also with me is JJ Tufu, who's a systems engineer, and I'll be walking through a very, very short slide deck and kind of describing what HR as a service is, and then JJ will actually do some on-screen presentation of actually walking through the system and showing you how it works and so on. Also, at the end, we'll display our email addresses, and you're welcome to send any questions, any comments, or anything like that to either JJ and I, and like I said, I'll display that at the end. All right, so I was a CIO with the state of California for almost 20 years and ran IT for four of the largest departments before retiring and coming to work here at Taborda. We had always problems with, I would say, the lack of automation in HR organizations that I found throughout the state. And so we came up with this as a solution for government organizations to kind of make a jump forward and adopt automation in the HR organization in an inexpensive and easy manner. I used to hate it when I'd have vendors come to me and show me slide decks that were 50 to 60 slides long, and about a quarter of the slides were about their company. This is the only slide I'm going to show you about who Taborda Solutions is. We've been in business for over 10 years. We started as a small business, certified business in California, but quickly outgrew that and are now classified as a large business in California. We also have offices in Texas and are doing business in a lot of the states now in the U.S. We originally were a reseller and provider of staffing resources. Now we're starting to move into the realm over the past years of being actually a product manufacturer and selling our own branded products, and HR as a service is one of those products. So I was watching television the other day, and I actually saw a commercial for IBM talking about cloud, and it really kind of dawned on me that the term cloud has really kind of entered the mainstream of kind of culture. And so basically cloud is a way of delivering technology to you without you having to procure software and physical boxes, servers, and place them in your data center, within your organization, and having IT staff in your organization maintain the technology. Cloud enables a way of delivering technology where it's more of now like a consumable service. So you pay for it, it's a subscription, almost kind of like a magazine or something like that, and you get it as long as you continually pay for that subscription. And the great thing about cloud-based technology is, one, it costs a lot less, but also if you decide that it's not a good fit for you, it is a very low-risk way of deploying new technologies, because you basically cancel your subscription and you're not left then with these capital investments of software and servers and things like that that are sitting on your data center floor that then you have to explain why it was a failed project and why you're not using this any longer. So it's a way of kind of getting around that and allowing you to try things with very, very low risk. But HR as a service, we as a company do a lot of business in what I call forms and workflow automation, where we would have organizations come to us regularly and bring us their paper-based forms or even electronic PDF fill and print forms, and wanting us to take them and move them to the next, generation of technology, where they're more of a fillable form that you're actually collecting data, and then it would enter some sort of a workflow, And then we would also incorporate in electronic signature, so you no longer have to do fill, print, and then sign something as a form. So over a period of time, we would have government entities coming to us and basically saying, well, we need these forms done in HR. And what we discovered was over a period of time is we were actually doing the same projects over and over again with very little variation. And so we made the decision as an organization to basically get ahead of that and develop an off-the-shelf product that basically has all of the forms and everything needed to run a government HR organization pretty much out of the box. And we did that, and we've now launched and are now rolling it out to early adopter organizations, within government in California. We built into this, like I said, electronic signature, all the workflow, and so on. We also hired retired HR directors from different government organizations and brought them as subject matter experts to basically help us better understand the forms and the workflows within government operations. And what this also did was it really expanded our vision as to what we were actually developing and producing. We discovered that there were a lot more forms out there, and we've now started to systematically include basically all of the forms, and it's HR as a service is growing literally on a weekly basis as we add new forms and new workflows. I kind of covered some of this, just high level. These are the benefits of HR as a service. It's an off-the-shelf product. We're not coming to you and saying, give me your forms and we'll develop it for you. We're basically coming to you and saying, here are the forms that are developed and ready to go now. We have included it where if you don't have an electronic signature technology, we include within HR as a service the Adobe e-sign product, but we also have a version of the product that will work with the DocuSign electronic signature product as well. One of the things that's really great about this is built into it, there are dashboards and reports. So like as an example, if for the first time or on an annual, you're sending out that everybody has to, all the filers in your organization have to fill out your Form 700 that meet the requirements for being a filer. For the first time, you can at any given time pull up and actually track who has actually completed that process and who hasn't, and you can quickly then manage and interact with the individuals that have not. You have as I said, no purchase of server or software. You only pay for what you need. We have organizations that will start with a single form and, and basically start using that in their organization and then systematically start taking on additional forms or groupings of forms. And you'll see that one of the things we demoed today is we've created, I would call, workflow processes where we've taken groupings of forms like the onboarding process, which consists of about 25 different forms potentially, and put it into a single workflow, and and so on. So Taborda is responsible for the upgrades, keeping the technology up and running, and the security for the system. As you need to grow, let's say hypothetically that, and just keep on using kind of like the Form 700 as an example, for some reason you've gone through an exercise where you've created additional classifications that you've identified in your organization that are now deemed as being filers as well. You can basically then true up for the number of filers then with us, and you just, or if it decreases, you decrease as well. So you just pay for exactly what you use, and it's very scalable to your business needs. And as I described, you can start small, try it, and as a result of being able to cancel and not having things that you've spent, so in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not potentially millions of dollars, depending on the side of your organization, you don't have the risk of having these capital investments just sitting around being unused. This is very important. You see about different data breaches, and so on in the news on a regular basis. And in most cases, cloud-based technologies can and are actually more secure than the data centers of the organizations that I ran. And so you can see on the screen examples of the different certifications that are held for this as a product. And to achieve these, the application processes and then the ongoing audits that are involved with this to comply with the requirements to have these certifications are very strenuous. Also, at the end, you can send me an email. I'll show my email contact information, and we have detailed documents that we can send you that you can share with your information security people that basically talk about all the different certifications in detail and how we basically manage the implementations of the different data centers and so on. I'm going to show here quickly 2 screens, and these are just a listing of the current listing of the different forms that exist within HR as a service. Please, we can provide you with this spreadsheet afterwards, and also we're recording this as a presentation, and we will be putting out on the Taborda Solutions website a recorded version of this that you can watch and so on. But if you send me an email, we can actually provide you a copy of a PDF version of the slide deck that'll have the form listings that you're seeing on this screen and on this screen. All right, so today we're going to show 2 different things. The first one, and they're tied. So there are companies out there that actually do sell an electronic PPC 700, and I'm just using this as an example, but the process that we'll show in this is applicable to all of our forms, and you'll get an example of how all of the different forms work and so on. And what we're going to show today is if you have a new employee coming into your organization, you have an HR analyst then who goes in and actually fills out a questionnaire quickly on the screen and clicks the different things that this, the checkboxes that this employee needs to do. It'll dynamically then generate the forms and workflows for that employee. And the first time they log into their inbox, they're actually going to have a series of emails that show them the different things that they need to do. One of them being, you know, the FPPC 700 if they're deemed a filer, but also things like filing for their health benefits, you know, and so on. And you'll see as JJ walks through the demo and shows you basically how it works. So I'm going to just really quickly walk through a few slides that kind of gives an example of how HR as a service functions and kind of the difference between the product that we've developed versus the fill and print forms that you're used to now. As an example, the Form 700, you can go through and as an FPPC officer, you can actually, if someone is coming into a position and it's an individual and they're required to then file, you can set it up where it'll dynamically send them off an email, as you see on the screen, for them to do it. Or your annual compliance for all filers, it'll also then send out an email to all your filers and you know, start the workflow process for everybody. But they'll get an email similar to what you saw on the screen. And you know, you click here and it'll then launch into the forms environment that we've created, as you see on the screen. And all the different forms, it's easy to train your staff very quickly because the forms are very intuitive and the interface is the same pretty much for all the different forms that you go through and similar to what you see on the screen here. On an annual basis, whenever I did my FPPC 700, I always kept a printed version of mine that I could pull out and actually take a look at, and then I quickly knew what schedules I needed to select and fill out. It was a very quick process for me. And so our system allows you to manually do things if you feel more comfortable and you're actually faster doing that. So what I've highlighted here on the screen in the yellow, you can actually select the schedules, in this case with the Form 700, that you want to fill out. Or this is where it kind of gets into, and a lot of IT people use the term kind of TurboTax, And, you know, I really like kind of that application of the phrase here, because the way we've set this up is if you don't know what to fill out, the HR as a service will actually then ask you, in this case, 6 questions. And then based on your answers to those 6 questions, they're very simple questions, it'll dynamically create an experience, a form experience specifically for you. And it'll actually select automatically, you can see down below, the schedules that are necessary then for you to fill out. And you'll have this dynamic workflow then that's specific just to you as a person. And then it'll launch into the form. It'll show, you can see up in the yellow that it's created the actual tabs then for the specific schedules based on the answers to the questions, you know, that I answered. And then one thing that we've also done, so just as an example, like all forms, they come with a lot of different instructions, and the FPPZ 700 is a 23-page form, and amazingly enough, over 15 pages of the document itself are actually instructions. And so to sit and try to find what you're looking for, the answers to what you're looking for, it's a very complex, and kind of, to me, it was always, you know, when I first started doing it, very nerve-wracking, you know, and so on. What we've done is we've actually taken the text of the help and we've made it context sensitive. So throughout the process, you can mouse over anything, and as you see on the screen here in the yellow box, it actually displays you then the help specific and the answer specific to that field. And so you no longer have to hunt for the help. It's actually built into the product throughout. And all of the HR as a service forms are exactly like this. So then in the end, when you're all done filling out the form, you can go in and electronically sign. It then seals the document, so no one can go in and then alter or edit the document. And then you'll actually have a banner on top of the PDF that's produced at the end that actually shows it's electronic signed, and it's still sealed as a document. If somebody somehow manages to get into it, and it'll dynamically break that, and you will no longer see the banner that basically says it's signed, and it's no longer a valid document. One of the cool things about this product is all of our forms and workflow at the end will actually generate a PDF of the form that your people are used to using, and you can either save it off electronically somewhere. You don't have to, because it's in the repository here and would be maintained in the repository indefinitely until you decide that it shouldn't be there anymore based on your retention standards. And the data is there as well, but you can actually print it out, you can save it, and do all the things that you're used to doing with your forms. I talked about people, you know, altering or changing. One of the great things about this is built into the product is, for all the forms, has auditing features that are extremely extensive, where you cannot change anything in a form whatsoever without it being tracked in the system. The auditing trail will even include things like, as an example, if you send out an email to an employee through the system stating that they need to fill out a form, it'll actually track those, when and you know, what time did they actually get those. And then if there's like escalations where they haven't done anything and they're dynamically getting emails basically saying, hey, this is still here, you need to pull this up and do this, it actually tracks all of those as well. So it's a really great way of being able to go back and say, you know, you really did get this, we really did send it to you. Or if somebody says, I've submitted a different form, what I see now is altered, there's no way within the system that anything, like I said, can be altered, you know, without it being tracked. So if something were changed, you would be able to know who, when, and you know, at what time that was actually changed. And I made a reference to the compliance management, the different dashboards and reports and so on. And this is just an example of the screen where you can quickly see how many people in the green that have finished the process, and then in the orange who have not, and then you can click on that and it'll dynamically give you a list of the individuals and their contact information that have not completed the process. So that's a really, really high level of an example of how all of our forms work. Now I'm going to turn this over to JJ, and JJ is actually going to do a demo presentation walkthrough for you.
How's it going, everyone? I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Go ahead and sign in really quick here. And so this is going to be our dashboard. I'm going to get a little bit more into what this dashboard includes a little bit later. But we're going to go ahead and start our form. I'm just going to type in onboarding here so we can get started. All right. So the idea for this form basically is so that an HR representative or an employee would fill this out, and it would dynamically pick out the forms that are, the forms that are required for that employee that's filling it, or the employee that the HR representative is onboarding at the time. And so a lot of times people won't know exactly what forms. There's about 25 forms in the onboarding process also for government employees, so it can be pretty confusing. So we actually worked with some retired HR representatives and specialists on carefully choosing these questions out so that we can make sure that all of the forms are selected that are required and need to be filled for the employee. So I'm just going to go through and kind of fill these questions out. And you'll see at the end that there's going to be a list generated of all the forms that are required. Some of these questions adhere to, multiple forms. Some of them are just, a single form itself. But you'll see below all the questions here is check boxes that are checked for all the forms that are going to be required based off of my answers. But say you're an HR representative and you know a little bit more and you think that someone's going to need one of these forms specifically, you can go ahead and check them yourself. What also is really cool is we have some required fields just to make sure that people have to answer certain things so they can continue without doing so. So we'll go ahead and go to the next page here. And so you'll see a list of fields here. All of these fields are actually repeated throughout the onboarding process. So instead of making you put in your first name, your last name, your middle name, on 10 different forms, or on all 25 if it's required, we're going to go ahead and have it all in just one, and basically it's going to auto-fill that information for you. Another cool thing about our forms when you're filling out the data is we do mask certain things like social security numbers. We have data validation for email fields, so you will get like an error code if you put it in an incorrect format, so things like that. And so that really adds to the functionality. So we're going to go ahead and submit here. And I'm now going to, basically, that was the HR representative filling that form. So I'm now going to go into the employee's email that the HR representative was filling that for. And we're going to go ahead and see, you can see my inbox is empty now, but we're going to go ahead and check out all the emails that we're going to receive from that. All right. Let's just give it a second to load here. Right. Just give it a second to load here. Okay, so it's just taking a second for those emails to come in because there is a lot of emails. So we're just going to go ahead and get it started from within the dashboard. So since we sent that request out, you actually don't have to set it up through email, which is also really cool. You can actually go directly through your dashboard, and each dashboard is going to be customized to which employee is using it. So since I set that invite out, an FPPC 700 is going to be required for this employee. So we'll go ahead and get started on that one. So as you can see here, these are all the fields that or some of these fields were actually in the onboarding process and they're already auto-populated from that onboarding process. And so we'll have the same name and things like that. Also, what you see on your screen here to the right is we have our communication center. And so basically you can add attachments. If you wanted to leave a comment for someone who's going to be reviewing your form, or if someone wanted to leave a comment for you while you're filing your form, they can do so. And it'll continue throughout the entire workflow, and it also keeps that in the audit trail. And then here you'll see our tabs so that we can switch over between pages. We're going to go ahead and go down, and we'll see the same section that you might seem familiar from the slide deck. So as you can see here, if you're someone like Jamie, you can just go ahead and start selecting things if you know what you're doing. But if you're someone like me who's never filled a Form 700, you can check here for basic questions to help determine which schedules you must complete. So we'll go ahead and check that and go ahead and start answering things. And you'll notice below, while I'm answering these yes and no's, it's actually picking out the forms here from that checkbox little menu there. So if we scroll back up to the top, you'll see the schedules are now available for me to fill. So the form is being dynamically built as you're filling out the form, which creates that custom experience for whoever's using the form. Basically, it's not going to be the same for any one person. It's just going to be for you. So custom tailored workflows for the employee or the HR representative. And so we're just going to go ahead and start picking out some things for this here. So you can see as I hit one on the investments there, it built out this whole section with all the required things for an investment to report. You'll see that the contextual help also. So if I, wasn't sure exactly what I'm supposed to put on this part of the form, this is directly from the actual instructions from the FPPC 700, and so it'll basically guide me as I'm going and things like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and get to the last page here. And so with the FPPC 700, there is going to be 2 copies that are going to be available. If they did want to make your FPPC 700 public record, depending on your department, they do have we do create the redacted copy for that, and then also the original that would be sent to your FPPC officer. And so we'll just go ahead and say we do want to have things redacted, and go ahead and submit that. After submitting, again, this is the employee filling out the FPPC 700 that was sent in from the agency or the HR representative, whoever is requiring it. And then we'll go ahead and let this form pre-fill. It's just taking a second because of the 23 pages that are being populated with information now. And so, as you can see here, it is the original Form 700 document. You'll see the information is now populated in the correct fields. And as we're going down, so say you can't really find where you're supposed to sign at just because it's a lot of boxes, you can actually hit this next required field option, and it'll point you directly to where you need to sign. And so we'll just go ahead and sign really quick and apply that. All right, I'm just going to scroll down a little and click to sign it. And on this page here, you can download your own copy. You are going to be emailed a copy of it also. And then also your HR representative will be able to start the next part of the process, which would be either reviewing it or sending off your Form 700 to the FPPC officer. So now I'm going to be going into the agency or the HR representative's email, and you can see here that it says Joe Smith has completed that. And so they can either send it off to the FPPC officer, or maybe there is some corrections they need them to make, and they can click here to note some changes. So we're just going to note some changes just to show, things do go wrong, and sometimes you do need to review things and let people know that they're going to have to make some changes. And so as you can see, as the HR representative's view here, you have the full audit trail here to your right in your communications tab. You have the attachment for the signed document here, so you can download that now. And then also, if they did leave some comments, you would be able to see the comments. But we're just going to go ahead and scroll through these. You'll see the schedule was filled from the last. And we're just going to go ahead and get to the end here and say that the form, the question is if the form is complete and ready to be sent. We'll go ahead and say no and say that they need to fix some things and submit. And so this is going to send this back to the employee so that the employee can do some reviewing and fix. And of course, I could have put something very specific in that email, in that message, saying you need to review this specific field. And now you can see all of the emails finally came through, actually. But the very top one is going to be the one that we're going to need. It's going to be the FPPC 700 incomplete. So right now I am in the employee's email. So as I'm clicking that, it says my FPPC officer has found some errors and I need to make some corrections. Looks like I need to fix some things. So I'll go ahead and click here to edit. And what's also really cool about these notifications is that they're fully customizable. So you can add fields, things from the actual field like you see there with the fix some things. You can also add in names. So if you wanted to put in who was filling this form out and within the notification, you can add attachments to the notifications and even approvals and denials through the notifications also. And so back to the form now. I'm just going to go ahead and say I was making some changes because I had to fix some things. We also provide you with the actual instructions kind of in a smaller format here just in case you wanted to see the actual instructions instead of using the contextual help. Then you just go ahead and review and submit one more time. And basically you are going to be completed with the entire FPPC 700 process. So, a lot of people say, it's filling out an FPPC 700 is worse than filling out their taxes. And, as we just did this here, it was a very simple process, very easy to do so, and a little less intimidating than seeing 23 pages of paper that you have to look through. And so since we basically are doing a review and we had to fix some fields, we are going to have to re-sign just because the signature was broken since the information was changed. So we'll just go ahead and re-sign as the employee. Go ahead and apply that signature. All right, I'm going to scroll down here and click the sign. And again, I would be able to download a copy, and it will be sent back to the FPPC officer for a review, or they can just completely send it off. So I'm just going to go ahead and get to the dashboard now just to kind of show you a little couple cool things about the dashboard here. So this dashboard is fully customizable as far as what the user is able to see. So if it's an employee that's not in the HR in the HR department, of course you can make it so that they only see their forms, and they'll be able to see, you know, how far they are in their form. Is it pending, or is it signed, and things like that. So we'll go ahead and look at the history for the last one we just did. So we'll go to our view history option here, and you'll have the full audit trail here. So say you get an employee that says, I never received that email for the FPPC 700 to fix some things. You will definitely be able to tell them you definitely received it because it's in the audit trail. We also have the e-signature documents that you were sent and things like that. So basically it's a good way to cover yourself as far as the HR representatives and things like that. And it also will email out the redacted copy at the same time, and you'll be able to download that from the same place.
So the system will actually generate two versions of the end for the Form 700. It'll create the version that is submitted and the internal version. It'll also create a version that could be given if there is some sort of a public records request, which has redacted fields of, you know, like the employee's home address and other identifiable information.
And then the last thing we'll get into is just some of the metrics that'll be available to you, just to kind of help you manage things and to manage compliance and things like that. So you can see on the top here, you have 22 out for signature, 0 have been canceled, 90 have been signed, so you can, you know, keep those numbers logged. We also have our agreement status here, so you can see 28 documents are available for this section here. And once you click on each section of the graph, it'll actually bring up all the forms, the recipient that it's for, and things like that. So you can completely manage those compliance and things like that. We're just going to go ahead and go right back. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over back to Jamie.
I can walk through that.
Jamie actually wants to just show really quick our version of the 686.
Which is an employee action request and document that has 5 different functions of the form. And one of the things we hear on a regular basis from different HR organizations is this type of a document, when it's submitted, when you have a form that has multiple roles of what the form is, on the paper-based version of the form, you can actually fill things out in the form incorrectly. So like as an example, someone will actually fill out their name and information, and they'll show withholdings at the bottom, but they won't actually check on the withholding checkbox on the top of the paper-based form. And so then the HR organization will have to call the employee to ensure that were you really intending to change your withholding information. So with our forms, you can see that the form is dynamically generated as you check on different roles for this form. So you're ensuring less chances of error and that the employee is actually filling out exactly what they need to fill out to complete that. You can also, let's say, as an example, you were married and you're changing your name and you're required to submit a copy of your marriage license. You can also upload and attach different documents with it and so on. So I just wanted to show an example of one of the other forms and how it works, and you can see that they're very simple and intuitive to use and easy to navigate. Okay. All right, so that's it. I just wanted to take a moment. Hold on 1 second, sorry. There we go. All right, so I wanted to say thank you for attending, our webinar right now for HR as a service. We also have other products, they're very similar. We have licensing and permitting as a service, and different products very similar to what you've seen, how they work, and so on, as well as different types of contracting and procurement, training registration, and things like that, that we'll have other webinars at a later date and demonstrate those and allow you to take a look at it. If you have questions, here are both JJ and my emails addresses on the screen. Feel free to reach out to us. We'll also send the copy of the PowerPoint presentation to all of the meeting registrants so they get a copy of it. And we are recording this presentation, and we'll have an edited version of it out posted on the Taborda Solutions website in a matter of days. So I wanted to say thank you all very much for attending, and it's greatly appreciated. So thanks.